Coming up on Tech News Today, Ultrabook, try SLEEKBOok. We'll explain why. Also, the great Zuck hoodie scandal and a Bioshocking delay. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, May 9th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your purchase on new accounts, go to Squarespace.com and use offer code TNT5, and they now offer free domain registration with annual plan subscriptions. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Chad Johnson.
And we just had to up the Johnson factor and bring in Scott Johnson today.
Yay.
Hey, it's good to be back, guys. Thanks for having me.
Scott Johnson, of course, from the Frog Pants Network, The Morning Stream, Final Score, Film Sack, The Instance, The Old Republic Edition.
Real hot
The
shot.
Instance Xbox Edition. The Instance Mac Edition.
So he's a lazy fellow.
What?
He's a lazy fellow. He just does like 1,500 podcasts.
Get a job.
Just sitting around.
Jeez.
I know. Just sitting
Shouldn't
around
be drawing
like a lazy
cartoons
sack.
or something?
Yeah, there's some of that too. You know what? Iyaz leaving for a couple of days makes me want to leave for a couple of days. So let's go together.
Okay, let's go to Philadelphia together.
You guys can run off across country in an old convertible and commit crimes together. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll be pirating along the way. That's
Yes, committed by downloading unauthorized
There's
copies.
open
of things.
Wi-Fi everywhere.
All right, let's start off with some gadget news for once. By golly, HP had a big announcement today of a slew of new laptops. The one that's getting, it's kind of split between the new Envy Spectre XT and the SLEEKBOOks getting the most attention. SLEEKBOOks, if you're wondering what the hell that is, are Ultrabooks that don't fit the definition precisely of
They're
Intel's
netbooks.
Ultrabooks. Well, no, they're Ultrabooks. Ultrabooks are a little bigger than netbooks.
No, SLEEKBOOks are netbooks.
No, SLEEKBooks are the same size as Ultrabooks, but they don't have the specs inside because Intel owns the name Ultrabook. So, for instance,
It's
one of the SLEEKBooks
0.5 version.
has an AMD processor in it. Otherwise, it's an Ultrabook.
Doesn't one of the SLEEKBooks actually have an Intel in it?
Yeah, but it doesn't meet some other specs
So there you go.
on size.
So
and
not
such.
all Intel books are Ultrabooks.
Yes.
But all AMDs are
men-
not Ultrabooks.
All men are AMD. Not all men are Aristotle.
What if they're ultra sleek
No
in
ultra-
form and function? Then what?
I think then people's heads explode.
This is what my head wants to do.
Let's
just
forget the
listen to
silly
these.
name and talk about what these actually are. The SLEEKBooks are 14 and 15.6-inch HP laptops measuring 20 millimeters thin, featuring HP Beats audio. In fact, all of the new big laptops have HP Beats audio. 14-inch version has a 500-gigabyte hard drive. The 15-inch version has a 320-gigabyte hard drive. Kind of weird. Both have 8-hour battery life. The 15-inch is the one with AMD CPU. It's not shipping until June 20th, and it will run $600. Very affordable. Nice looking laptop for $600. The 14-inch version has an Intel processor inside. Shipping earlier, May 9th. That's today. $700. So you pay $100 more for a smaller laptop, but it has the Intel processor inside.
And that's one of the reasons why Intel's having trouble getting those Ultrabooks down to the cost of where they wanted to be. But $700 is pretty close to what they wanted. It's at $699 for Ultrabooks. Is this the SLEEKBOok version, or I'm mixing them up again?
The SLEEKBOok, these are both SLEEKBooks because whether they have the Intel or AMD in them.
Okay.
There are some Ultrabooks, though. Envy Ultrabooks coming that you can have either Sandy Bridge or Ivy Bridge processors in. By the way, the SLEEKBooks don't have Ivy Bridge. They have AMD or they have an Intel Sandy Bridge. The Ultrabooks with Sandy Bridge are shipping today, $750 and $800, and they are in 14 and 15.6-inch versions. And then the Envy Spectre XT is the successor to the all-glass one we saw at CES, but that doesn't have glass anymore. So how's the Wi-Fi going to get through?
Probably
That was the big thing.
some miracle
It'll
breakthroughs.
still get through. The glass is just supposed to be
that was the only thing.
better
We were like, why the
to
glass? They're
conduct.
like, well, it could be more transparent to Wi-Fi signals.
I think for some people it looks cool.
See, that's why they brushed the magnesium, so that way there's less of it in the way. See, that's how they made up for it.
Anyway, Envy Spectre XT is an all-metal body, 13.3-inch Ultrabook, 3.07 pounds, 14.5 millimeters thick, Ivory Bridge, 4 gigabytes of memory, 128 gig solid state drive, 8-hour battery life, and like the previous Envy, comes with Photoshop and Premiere Elements, including some crapware. But that's actually pretty nice crapware there.
Yeah.
Adobe Photoshop. Just saying. That one's shipping June 8th for $1,000.
It comes with like 2 years of Norton antivirus, too.
Yeah. Make sure we get that in there. That you can't shut off or uninstall. July 25th, a bunch of new Pavilion brand these are more like netbooks, although I don't think they call them that, are shipping. These are between $480 and $800, just real affordable models. Vice President of Industrial Design Stacy Wolf was talking to Engadget about particularly the Envy Spectre, and they said, are you bothered that your laptops all look like MacBooks? You know, like are you just ripping Apple off? Stacey Wolf said, I think if you look at the new Spectre XT, there are similarities in a way, not due to Apple, but due to the way technology's developed. Apple may like to think that they own silver, but they don't. In no way did HP try to mimic Apple.
Yeah, so sometimes the wedge is the right way to go. We use magnesium, they use aluminum. I still think there's lots of ways you can differentiate yourself. I know Dell was trying this a lot with their Adamo line. Their laptops didn't look anything like MacBook Airs because they even had a different hinge design. This idea that I know the silver is like Apple's thing for now. There are ways to make yourself look different, but it's kind of hard to argue with the whole like, hey, look, here's all these Ultrabooks, and they kind of, most of them look a lot like the MacBook Air. This
was actually a pretty interesting interview. He was pretty candid with Engadget and said, listen, if we would have gone in a totally different direction, they would have said, wow, so they didn't copy Apple. And since we didn't go in a different direction, it's, oh, so they copied Apple. And he pointed out, listen, we had a black keyboard years ago and nobody noticed. Now everyone says that we're just copying MacBooks. We've been working on a lot of this stuff, chiclet keyboards as well, for years. And we don't get credit where credit is due, at least some of the time.
We tried glass and you all made fun of us. Scott, what do you think?
I don't know. They are really similar to MacBooks, but I don't see that as a bad thing. There's no reason why, some hot style can come out and people can't copy it. It happens with cars all the time. And why not happen with notebooks? It's happened for years anyway. This isn't the first time we've seen this sort of thing. And even HP had a very iMac-looking all-in-one PC a couple of years ago that looked really sexy and looked really great, but it was clearly inspired by it. And I don't think it's a problem to admit it. I think their response sounds a little defensive and doesn't need to be. I think it's okay to sort of embrace, new ideas of style and usage, and we can all just be happy about it. I don't think there's any reason for them to be embarrassed about that. And in fact, I say go for it and try to make a notebook that, will draw users to, want to buy your competitive offering. I think that's great.
I think he's right about, Apple doesn't own silver. And just because you have a black keyboard and it's colored silver doesn't mean that you're imitating Apple.
But Apple also has a history of suing companies who make products that look too much like Apple products. So I don't think HP should be embarrassed.
I can't remember who wrote
cautious.
This. Somebody said, but they won't do that with HP because these have Windows. And the reason they went after Android and Samsung is because Steve Jobs thought that Android was ripping off Mac, which is hilarious because when Steve Jobs first saw Windows, he said, "You're ripping me off." Yeah, I guess he's gotten over it over time, or Apple has gotten over it over time. Let's check AOL earnings because, they have good news, and we need to give them their due for once. AOL revenue, $529 million, 22 cents a share, beating street expectations. Wall Street expected 7 cents a share, so they really beat the crap out of it as far as that goes. But some troubling things in there. Domestic display ad sales shrank 1%, traffic down 4% year over year. When your revenue's up, these things don't bother people as much, but they're troubling. Nobody's paying attention to that, though, because Sarah Lacey over at Pando Daily reported that she has heard from several sources that AOL is trying to sell Engadget and TechCrunch for anywhere between $70 to $100 million, and they're giving prospective partners 6 months to a year to evaluate. Tim Armstrong, the CEO of AOL, told Ad Age, "We are planning to invest in these properties, not sell them." He did admit that the company has spoken with outside entities about partnerships that would lead to increased investments in TechCrunch and Engadget, but right now AOL is leaning towards investing in ourselves. So I think what's happening is they went and said, hey, anybody want to sink a little money? Come partners. The way Microsoft has 1.65% of Facebook.
Right. Well, it's funny, in Sarah Lacey's article, she mentions, of course, no sources are named, that AOL employees, for example, an employee at TechCrunch or an equivalent property of AOL, they had these crazy budgets and they were just spending with reckless abandon because it's AOL and AOL gave them all this money and isn't really paying a lot of attention. Like, let's spend while we still can type of a thing. So when I hear Tim Armstrong saying something like, we want to invest in these properties, we're not just going to sell them off, we're going to invest in them. I wonder how much are they really looking at the bottom line with these companies, because they sort of are in a situation where they're still trying to prove themselves. These are properties that have, well, if you think of TechCrunch and the Huffington Post specifically, have only been AOL properties for a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think probably just reading the tea leaves of all of these statements, half statements, and even something from the earnings report, they are losing some money on their dial-up industry all the time. In fact, that's what Armstrong says is the cause of the traffic being down. He's like, when traffic's not down to TechCrunch and Engadget, traffic's down to our portal because people aren't using us as an ISP anymore. We're not selling dial-up. So that's going to bring the traffic down. And I think he is trying to throw some money at TechCrunch and Engadget to bolster them. And to keep that money flowing, he's probably going around looking for creative partnerships and even probably looking for something on the order of $70 to $100 million from various sources. And that would give rise to Sarah Lacy's number, 6 months to a year to find those partners and say, hey, you want to buy 1%, 2%? Do you want to buy in as a partner and become, we kind of have moved Arianna Huffington back over to just being on HuffPo. Maybe we can get somebody to come in and run these properties for us. They're exploring all kinds of opportunities, and I think that's a good thing.
And I think the big thing about AOL is, like, a couple of years ago, it'd be like, okay, are they going to be around for a couple of years? What's going to happen to them? And they really did a great job becoming, actually they acquired a bunch of content companies, like you were saying, Huffington Post fairly recently, but Engadget and all that other stuff was a while ago. And they really built these brands up. They were built up already, but they've continued to build them up to the point where AOL can have a plan even if their dial-up system isn't working as much, because that's what they used to do. This is like, if anybody's watching this, Yahoo should be looking at this going, hey, you know what? We can somewhat figure out what we're doing. We can have this weird floundering period, because AOL had that too, and this actually still have a future, because I still think this is impressive that their earnings are up. So this is impressive.
I was going to say the exact same thing, and I just think it can't be overstated. This is a company who we used to all buy dial-up through. We used to get discs in the mail. That was their primary means of business. I
never bought dial-up through.
I did. For a while I had them way back in the early 90s. But, they had this model that was a completely different model, and they made a ton of money doing that model, and then that model was getting stripped from them rather quickly, and still is, clearly. And for them to turn that around and become a content-driven company and make some pretty smart moves in that way, it's going to be rocky, and there's going to be points, and there have been points in that relationship with their content companies where it's been a little weird. But for the most part, you have to admire it for what they've tried to pull off. They've essentially had to change their identity almost completely. Yeah, it's still internet-based, but it's a completely different business. And so far, it seems so good to me. I say hats off to AOL for this.
Yeah, they haven't turned it around. I don't want to be an AOL fanboy or anything. I think they're still a troubled company, but they sure are showing a lot more. I don't want to say innovation, but a lot more of the right ideas than Yahoo is. You don't see
flexibility.
That's not hard to do.
If you want to compare those two, I had my service through AT&T WorldNet, so I'm not much better than AOL. I'll be honest. Let's move on to a very serious story that is rocking the world of tech investment, and that is the controversy swirling around Mark Zuckerberg's hoodie.
That's correct. Fashion and investments are very important together. And here's what's going on. Facebook's doing its roadshow. They're trying to get investors excited for its IPO, of course. And Mark Zuckerberg has been making the rounds as well in New York. He was wearing his hoodie while he was doing the presentation. Now, Michael Pachter over at Wedbush Security says that wearing a hoodie at a meeting is a sign of Zuckerberg's lack of seriousness. Now, quote, he was talking to Bloomberg Television, by the way. So, quote, Mark in his signature hoodie. He's actually showing investors he doesn't care that much. He's going to be him. I think that's a mark of immaturity. I think he's got to show them the respect they deserve because he's asking them for money. Pachter also said that Zuckerberg is, quote, well-suited to be this chief product officer, the chief user experience officer, to manage the design of the user interface, to decide every feature that gets in. Then Pachter, because this story got picked up, told TPM, I personally could care less what Mr. Zuckerberg wears when he wears it. And he's also part of the firm that issued the first buy recommendation for Facebook. And he also
if he doesn't care, why did he say anything?
Why doesn't he? Because I asked him a question.
You look like Emperor Palpatine.
I put a hoodie on. Do you feel disrespected, Sarah?
Very.
Well,
for the audio listeners, are you disrespected?
Well, I never.
But I have a suit coat and a hoodie.
Yeah,
He
you're
could have done
actually
this.
just confusing me.
Yeah. This would have been worse if Zuckerberg.
So he
would have
just
done
needs
that.
lapels, and that's okay.
This is such horsepucky for someone to say. Mark Zuckerberg is not showing us the respect that we deserve, or he's talking about a third party, not showing potential investors the respect that they deserve because he's not more dressed up, has obviously not hung out in Palo Alto long enough. This is it's just, obviously, Mark Zuckerberg has built up a very successful company by being himself. Why stop now? This is what he does. It makes no difference at all.
If he starts wearing a suit and tie, the story would be, well, Mark Zuckerberg's changing who he is for the Wall Street investors. He's sold out.
Some West Coast analyst would have taken
That's
him
how
to
that
task.
would
Be
go.
offended by casual dress. I mean, yeah, if you're at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, maybe. But
Look,
give me a break.
Sarah, Iyaz is from the East Coast. I'm from the Midwest. We understand that out in California, you folks do things just real hippy-dippy. You know, we wear hoodies everywhere and toe shoes. But that's the East Coast. That's where the money is. You got to dress up. You got to show respect.
Right.
Well, we did see Facebook.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day either, right?
That's right.
Yeah, well.
Don't wear white after
Welcome
Labor.
to Cali.
Weren't there a bunch of advertisers complaining that Facebook doesn't coddle them enough? I mean, effectively, it's Facebook saying, look, we have 910 million people who visit us every day or every month. You guys have to chill out. Give us your money. We'll take care of you. It's going to be fine. It just seems like people are just like, okay, what's the Facebook IPO story? This guy said he's wearing a hoodie. So,
all right.
I'm with Sarah on this 100%. It's a big, what a joke. Who cares? Who cares?
Mountain time.
And you're not wrong. Dude, we're all hippies over here. But let me tell you this. If Iyaz is right, he shows up in a suit, then I'm thinking it's weird. You know what I mean? Like, this is Mark Zuckerberg. What else did you expect? We wouldn't think Steve Jobs would show up with anything less than jeans and a turtleneck at one of these meetings. So I don't know why people are so worked up. I think it's silly. Just wear what you want.
All right, we've already spent like 10 times too much on this story. Let's take a break and thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. I was using it this morning to update our forecast website, Scott. It's easy as pie. I know. You're like, I did it like that. I was right after the morning stream. Actually, it was right before the morning stream. I was waiting during Nicole's recommendals, and I popped into Squarespace very easily. This is the part I love. I cut and paste from the FeedBurner feed into Squarespace. Squarespace preserved all of the HTML as I cut and pasted it over, so I didn't have to code anything. Just boom. Everything was linked. All their guest names were linked. It was beautiful. Squarespace is reliable. It's fast. It gives you traffic analysis. It gives you support. Their standard plans start as low as $8 a month. If you don't want to mess with code like I didn't this morning, you don't have to. You can make a beautiful website. But if you're like, well, I actually do know some CSS, I know some HTML, you can get under the hood very easily and tweak the HTML. I do it all the time. All-inclusive service includes several modules to build your website, a blog module, including an importer for if you've got a blog already under another service, form builder, social media buttons for Twitter and Facebook, Google Maps, all kinds of stuff, plus the tracking is amazing. But you don't really need to take our word for it. Go sign up for a free account. You don't need a credit card. Just start building a website. Come up with a name. Go to squarespace.com and do it. If you decide to keep the service, use offer code TNT5 and get 10% off your first purchases on new accounts. Don't forget about the free domain name registration with annual plan subscriptions. Sign up for a year, you get a free domain name to boot. Use that offer code TNT5 to get the discount. Squarespace.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. To the Netherlands we go.
Let us go to the Netherlands.
Tulips and weed.
And net neutrality, Tom.
What?
That's right.
That's better than both.
A trip to Amsterdam just got really fun. So Chile was the first country in the world last year to adopt net neutrality law, and the Netherlands is the first country in Europe. They've adopted legislation to safeguard an open and secure internet in the Netherlands. Obviously, net neutrality will prohibit internet providers from tampering with the traffic of their users. The law does allow for traffic management in a few particular cases. In case of congestion, in case of network security, as long as these measures are serving the interests of the internet user, at least in theory. Now, there's a technical error in the law that still might be corrected by a vote on May 15th, and I'll get to that in a minute.
All right, because I read about that, and I was curious what that error was.
Well, I might as well tell you now then, if you're really curious.
I am a little curious.
Well, it's strange. So the technical error is an exception that lets users request an ISP to filter their internet traffic based on ideological grounds. So religious interests.
I don't want to see
non-interests.
depictions of Allah because I'm Muslim. Can you
Something
keep those
like
off
that.
of my service?
Something
Okay.
like that.
Gotcha.
It's a clause, though, that was added to the proposed law last year when the Dutch Labour Party accidentally voted in favor of an amendment proposed by the Reformed political party. It was basically just a misunderstanding that happened in session. Now, because of that, a lot of people in the government in the Netherlands say, you know, this clause really shouldn't be there. It's just going to open the floodgates to net neutrality issues, because then we've got stuff being blocked and we don't want it. Majority of people in government. Anyway, so Parliament has come up with something very interesting. They decided to nullify this religious exception clause, add it to an unrelated law that's coming up concerning traffic regulations coming up on May 15th. Nobody expects that to pass. So if it's amended to that, it'll just kind of get washed away.
Okay.
So that's the deal.
That's weird. Yeah.
It is weird.
That is really weird.
It's one of those
Because it
things.
actually doesn't seem like that horrible of a provision if it's at the user's request, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, I guess they think, slippery slope type of a thing.
Sure.
Also, the law has an anti-wiretapping provision restricting internet providers from using wiretapping technologies like deep packet inspection. They can do so under limited circumstances or with explicit consent of the user. The user can withdraw that consent at any time. It also requires a warrant, wiretapping does. And the law also includes another provision, a lot of provisions here, that's part of the implementation of the European telecommunications rules. So some of these provisions are necessary. The last one requires internet providers to disconnect users only in a very limited set of circumstances, such as case of fraud or a user not paying his or her bill. So as the law stands right now, there are, I guess, too many vague reasons why people can get cut off. This would require the ISP to have much more specific, you didn't pay your bill, that's the only reason that you're not getting this.
So these consumer-friendly laws, can we get them imported?
Wouldn't that be nice?
I know you can get like tulips
There's so many
imported.
things they do in the Netherlands that would be awesome. Here.
Yeah.
It's one of the few countries that have net neutrality. Chile,
Yes.
first country.
Yes.
I don't know of any others.
No.
Definitely the first one in Europe, for sure.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, let's get to some bad news for fans of Bioshock. Bioshock Infinite will not be coming out until February 26th, 2013. If you were expecting it in October, too bad. You're not getting it till February 26th, 2013. The original Bioshock was delayed. Games get delayed all the time. Studio head Ken Levine says, look, we want everything to look great. That's why we're delaying it. But you're not going to see the game shown off at E3 or Gamescom either. How bad is this, Scott?
I don't think it's not a bad thing. Ken Levine is in that upper echelon of kind of superstar game developers. He is one of those guys that when you hear he's working on a game, you take it real serious. And Bioshock was a huge hit. It was an enormous success. And a follow-up to that is obviously, that's got everybody talking and everybody excited. Are people going to be disappointed? Yeah, but we're disappointed all the time in delays of great games. We would much rather wait until they're done. Here is the only part of this that makes it a little bit weird. Now, I know the big three have said, well, the big two, I should say, because Nintendo's already got a new console coming. We just may not have dates yet. But both Sony and Microsoft say no new consoles at E3 this year. We're not showing anything. We're not announcing anything. That may be what they're saying, but I truly believe that 2013 is that year. They run the risk, Bioshock runs the risk on consoles anyway. On the PC is a different matter, but on consoles, they run this risk of being last-gen game. And it's not a fun place to be in. A lot of great games can claim that position. There's stuff at the tail end of the PlayStation 2 era and the original Xbox era. They kind of got stuck at the end, and they ended up kind of floundering a little bit, and people didn't take it as seriously because they want the new hotness. So that's the only real worry I have, is any games that are getting pushed to 2013 may have to contend with that. But on the whole, I think this is good news for players because it just means it's going to be a better game. There's plenty coming out this year. We have plenty to look forward to and worry about. Next Tuesday may kill us all anyway. So I say...
What, Diablo?
Yeah, Diablo 3 is coming out Tuesday. It's going to be nuts. And I don't know how many sick days people are going to take, but we may see the crumbling of our economy in one fail swoop because of that game. But yeah, I say wait. Let's wait till they have it right. That's always better in video games. Less patches, more functional on day one. And I expect it to be a fantastic experience. I'm looking very much forward to that game.
And honestly, February is not when we would expect new consoles to come out. We're not expecting consoles to come out other than the Wii U this year. So even if new consoles did get announced at E3 in 2013, or even if they get announced this year to come out in 2013, that still gives it a good several months, if not up to a year, before new consoles did come along, right?
Yeah, it's a holiday thing. You always, not always, but most of the time you see
miss
these
out on the
console
holidays.
releases. Yeah, you do it a holiday thing. So the only risk is it's more of a mental problem, a mental block for a lot of players. When they know something new is about to hit, they get weird about it, and everything seems so last generation the minute you have a new game or a new console announced. And so spending money on stuff now seems dumb because you're going to be just turning right around and spending $300 on that new console, probably more than that, to even play these new games. And it's a weird mental thing with players. But if they play their cards right and they do hit that February release date, it'll be fine. PC players don't have to worry about anything. It'll be an awesome version of the game. It'll look better, feel better, run better. So they have February to look forward to either way, and that gives me some hope because I do like my PC games.
Yeah, PC gamers always have at least access to the best equipment possible.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish up our discussion section with a product out of CTIA, the cell phone conference that's going on. They hate it when we say that. They're not a cell phone conference. It's the mobile industry. It's whatever.
What's new
They
and
changed what the
wireless?
C means. Anyway, it's, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, all of their stuff. Sprint has got a Tri-Fi hotspot. You want to know what Tri-Fi is? LTE, WiMAX, and 3G all in one hockey puck. Actually, it's more like an anvil that allows you access to all of their networks. Now, this is what advantage Sprint has. I'm not sure how much of an advantage it is, but because they have a legacy WiMAX network and they're rolling out an LTE network, they can do this and say, look, you can get whatever's fastest in whatever area you're in. Problem is their LTE doesn't roam on Verizon and AT&T.
Yeah, that LTE roaming thing doesn't really exist, I think, right now in the U.S. But the thing is, Sprint's doing a smart move, right? Like you were saying, they have all these old technologies sitting around. And there were a bunch of other, MVNOs. I think it was like Rover was one. They had a puck that was 4G. It ran on the Sprint network, or the Clear network, and then it didn't have 3G as a backup. And so this was kind of a useless device because you were limited by that. Then you have these issues where, if you're on the WiMAX network, you're like, okay, in 2 years, not even a year from now, it'll be useless. Now what do I do? This is the kind of thing that Sprint needs right now to kind of go, okay, you can buy this now. It's going to be fine for the next 2 or 3 years. Our networks are going to be changing, but this device will have it. But also, if you take a look at the size, you're probably not going to see phones that have all this capability because this is kind of like a massive little. It looks like one of those old GPSs you'd get when there was the single things people used to buy those in the old days, like me. That's what it looks like.
It's got a 3,600 milliamp hour battery, micro SD slot. It's made by Sierra Wireless, so it's going to have a lot of the same capabilities that the previous Overdrive from Sprint had. It cost you $100 after a $50 mail-in rebate and a 2-year service agreement. Monthly data plans from Sprint are the same as they have been: $35 for 3 gigabytes, $50 for 6 gigabytes, and $80 for 12 gigabytes. And it will be available May 18th. You going to buy one? Anybody? No? Yes?
I already have a hotspot.
I don't need any more monthly anything, but I like the idea of this.
Just paid my early termination fee on the Sprint Overdrive because I don't want to pay for that and Verizon, and I have a Verizon MiFi that has LTE. And Verizon LTE is available at all the places that Sprint's WiMAX is available, and I don't need to pay for 2 of them.
If Sprint goes ahead and opens up LTE in Petaluma and San Francisco, I'll get it.
And they will. It's just a matter of when.
Well, Verizon's going to win out first. So
yeah.
them.
Well, Verizon has LTE in San Francisco. So you're saying if Sprint were to beat Verizon to Petaluma, that'd be the only condition?
I might actually do it.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Not the only one. I said San Francisco as well.
When it's the town you live in,
Verizon
it's a
LTE
big
is already
deal.
in San Francisco, so they beat them there. That part of the race is
I
done.
just wanted both, so I can use my device for something.
Iyaz just wants Petaluma to have LTE.
Pretty much wherever I am, I want LTE. Okay, that's why Verizon's winning for me
like.
right now. So as Sprint, once they have their network running, I'm sure this would be a great device.
AT&T is in San Francisco as well.
That's fantastic.
Just saying. I want you to know your options.
And I want people to know about the news fuse. They're so cute. It's spring. There's a little nip in the air. Not a nip. What is it in spring? It's a love. Love is in the air.
Allergy in the
It might be an allergy because I'm talking about Oracle and Google. Google filed for a new trial on copyright claims in Oracle's IP lawsuit over Android in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California because the jury delivered a partial verdict, as we've reported previously. Also, Andy Rubin was back on the stand and said that Android engineers were not aware of Sun's patents, saying, quote, "It's not reasonable to go searching through all this paperwork not for an engineer.
Ooh, burn.
Ooh, right back at you, lawyer.
Engineer ever do to you. Dan Loeb of Third Point. You've heard of him, right? He's that 6% owner of Yahoo and all-around helpful guy who just wants Yahoo to be better. Has suggested, forcefully, that Yahoo ditch Scott Thompson based on that resume mess and install either CFO Tim Morse or Yahoo's head of global media, Ross Levinson, as interim CEO. Third Point also reiterated Thompson be fired. Scott Thompson should be fired and install 4 of director candidates chosen by us. Third Point.
They're so helpful.
Yeah.
They know what Yahoo needs better
Their
than
universe
Yahoo
is
does.
awesome.
Huawei is building up its United States presence by showing off its Cloud Engine 12800, a next-gen data center switch at Interop, a networking conference. It'll be able to switch up to 48 terabits per second. Now, for some perspective, that would be about 3 times the average for the industry right now.
And just think how much they can charge with those flashing lights going faster than the other flashing lights. Approximately 55,000 Twitter usernames and passwords were posted up to Pastebin, and no one's taking credit for it. That may be because it's not very valuable. Twitter said it alerted affected users to reset their passwords and that more than 20,000 of the accounts appear to be duplicates and spam accounts that had already been suspended. Twitter told CNET that Twitter itself is not compromised.
Weird. Any of you get any
I think they got
notices?
the account from a spam company. That's my guess.
That's very strange. Bloomberg reports that Deutsche Telekom is discussing a merger of its T-Mobile business with Metro PCS. The deal would be a stock swap, and Deutsche Telekom would control the combined entity. Other options include an outright sale of T-Mobile. Bloomberg says that T-Mobile is being shopped to a number of companies.
Apple released OS X 10.7.4, which patches up that file vault bug that allowed access to passwords. Also included in the over 700 megabyte update is Safari 5.1.6. SMB printing updates, and our favorite, improved compatibility with certain British third-party USB keyboards. But seriously, get the update for your security. Do it.
I have here a report about a project, disturbing project. The project serves people who are often called communists. The project claims to benefit the worker and aims to circumvent the running dogs of capitalism. The project is called Sputnik, of course, and it's from Dell. Dell has launched a 6-month exploratory effort that will pair Dell's XPS 13 Ultrabook with Ubuntu 12.04, aiming to meet the needs of software developers. They call the project Sputnik. I have no idea why.
Because with a dog and it's launched in space.
I'm gonna try to do the same thing now.
Sputnik didn't
with
have
the
a
rumor
dog.
mill. Crap! My Google Doc just died.
Seattle Block Tech Flash. Reports.
Sorry.
I mixed up the dog thing, too.
I guess I can't say anything about communism, huh? Password.
Oh, you better not. They'll get you. Someone in her network is a communist.
Hold on. I'm almost there.
I got kicked off of Skype right after Iyaz said we were going to go around the country together doing crime in the form of stealing Wi-Fi, and I got booted off. I'm telling you, there's something going on.
Somebody's watching us. And I think people are watching us. I think these cameras are... Something's really going wrong about this.
Wait, I just noticed the cameras.
How long have they been there?
I think Chad is a double agent. That's what I think.
All right, I'm almost back here.
Did it just crash?
I got logged out of freaking Google
loves to
Docs.
do that.
Oh, yeah, Google, you might want to give an alert before you log people out of things
Google?
in the middle of a freaking show.
You might want to just stop. So, now onto the rumor mill. Seattle blog Tech Flash reports rumors are flying that Microsoft is pitching its Windows Phone as the platform Facebook should use to launch its supposed Facebook phone. Smartphone, whatever it is. Microsoft owns 1.6% of Facebook and sold $550 million worth of patents to the social network. So the two companies, they're pretty chummy. But wait, there's one more rumor. Are you ready? DigiTimes reports that we get a new iPhone in September and a mini iPad, 7-inch one in August, and then another 10-inch iPad in the fourth quarter of this year, which makes very little sense at all.
Well, yeah. Well, let's actually finish off with some hard news. Forget this rumor stuff. Facebook launched a new beta program that allows developers to charge a flat fee for apps. That's right. Paid Facebook apps are here. The program covers apps both on Facebook.com and HTML5 apps. Facebook also launched its App Center, a place where you can find apps. That makes sense. It'll be rolling out on the web, iOS, and Android apps in the coming weeks.
Randomizer it.
Randomizer.
Look, one of the problems you might have is Google logging you out of Google Docs unexpectedly in the middle of your tech news show. Another
Uncool.
problem you might have
Uncool.
It's a problem a lot of
is
people have.
people trying to beam Wi-Fi into a room when you don't want them to and read your thoughts. That's why a new type of wallpaper is developed by scientists from the Institut Polytechnique Grenoble IMP and the Centre Technique du Papier, and will go on sale in 2013. It looks like regular wallpaper, but it contains silver particles that allow it to filter out up to 3 different frequencies simultaneously.
Hold on. I thought this was you decorate your walls in the special wallpaper so people can't sniff your Wi-Fi.
Works that way too. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just thinking
it keeps any kind of signal transfer
in
from
or
happening.
out.
So you can keep the signal
you
out.
lock yourself in.
Keep the signal in.
Or lock them out.
Yeah, if you don't want people to like drive by and use your Wi-Fi to download the Hurt Locker and then you get dragged into court
and then
later.
You go to jail forever.
Yeah, then you could use this wallpaper.
What does the wallpaper look like? Because wallpaper, I'm just saying, for those of you who have ever done a shoddy wallpaper job, it's very difficult to remove when you change your mind.
Silvery pattern, and it also allows GSM 4G and emergency calls through. So if you're afraid, I can't call out in case of an emergency. You
it's no good for the tinfoil hats.
No, you can't do that.
It's not an actual Faraday cage.
The actual usage that the university is looking at is for hospitals where Wi-Fi signals could be problematic.
People are going to start hacking your wallpaper.
But here's the solution. We're sick of getting on planes and having them to tell us to turn off all our devices. Just wallpaper us out of the devices area. And we're good. We can all use our stuff while we're taking off. Who cares then?
Good point.
Because those things aren't shielded already by actual, much more suitable equipment, right? That's not shielded at all.
Apparently
we
not.
just need some wallpaper.
Wallpaper, that's the answer.
Or maybe, I've got
Lovely,
it.
flowery
wallpaper. When you're on the plane, you're covered in this silvery sack.
Oh, no,
and
it's
then
okay, man.
you've got your
I
device
am covered
inside.
in wallpaper.
Don't worry. It's my pod. I want royalties, whoever makes that.
And
you heard
I
it here.
want to know what's on the calendar.
Oh, good. I actually have information about that, too. Wolfenstein 3D turns 20 years old this month. Today, you can play the browser version for free. In honor. 20 years old. Wow. Startup Watch. Tomorrow is LA Demo Day in Santa Monica. I meant if you're part of a startup or you like that community, you should watch out for this conference because it probably applies to you. The Evo 4G LTE is out on May 18th for $200 from Sprint. And finally, ICANN says that it's planning to reopen the generic top-level domain application process on May 22nd and giving people until May 30th to submit their applications. They're just going to keep giving us a little extra time.
I can. More like I can't keep a deadline.
Oh. Or maybe I can't raise the kind of money I thought I would.
Are you going to register .Johnson?
No, I don't think so.
You could split it with Chad.
I will.
Merritt? Oh, you are? Okay, Chad.
Yeah, heck yeah. You got to, OMG.Johnson.
Yeah.
Who else could possibly use this?
Lyndon, Johnson's
Akhtar.
family. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Got a couple of voice and video mails. We're all multimedia, like it's 1999. Our first video message comes from Dwayne talking about a good Google support experience.
Hey guys, this is Dwayne calling in from New York about Google support. Tom, you've mentioned that support from self-service companies like Google can be impersonal. And while that's true, I happen to have had a great experience with Google just yesterday. I recently enabled Google Drive on my apps domain, and yesterday got a phone call from Google checking in on how I was doing. We found a problem in my setup, but the support rep didn't know how to fix it. She promised to call me back, did call back with the solution, and stayed on with me while I fixed it. How many times have you been told by a support rep that they'd call you back only to never hear from them again? Love the show. Oh, and Tom, this Barry guy claims he knows you.
Hey, Barry.
Do you know him?
How's it going? Good to see you there. Why are you laughing? I don't get the joke. I like that good story about Google trying to improve. Because I've used Google Apps on the domain and been at wit's end long time ago. I'll say 2-3 years ago about who to contact for something. So I'm glad that Dwayne called in with that. That's good. I like to give people their due when they improve their support because too often you just hear about the bad stuff. Also, I had no idea that the New York Giants had reversed their logo.
Yeah, it's like a what do you call those, rally caps? Almost.
Instant rally cap. Our voicemail today comes from someone in Tennessee who definitely wants a self-driving car.
Hey, this is Steve Wolf, Nashville, Tennessee. Calling in about your show you did Tuesday, May 8th, about the Google self-driving cars. I'm a blind individual here in Nashville, been blind a number of years, and not heard a lot of people talk about the implications of a self-driving car for people who are unable to drive. I think this is so cool. And the fact that Nevada's finally licensed these things to be on the road for testing anyway. And, of course, I'm going to be waiting at the front of the line eventually when these things come out in production. I plan to have one. So, anyway, fascinating story. Enjoy your show every day, Monday through Friday, and I'll keep listening. Thanks a lot.
I'm glad to hear that you're hopeful for that happening. It's probably going to be a while before it gets to that point.
That's going to be a long line.
But definitely, I mean, Google made that video that showed just that situation that he's talking about.
Yeah, we're still a ways away from the idea that somebody who is impaired enough not to be able to drive at all would be able to drive with these. But we still got not only a driver but a passenger who both need to be able to see.
Yeah, during the testing phase, right. And one thing I just found out is the reason they picked Nevada was because it gave them access to a lot of the conditions that they wanted to test in, both road-wise and weather-wise. So, you know, they have Tahoe where you can go into these extreme snow conditions, and then they have deep, deep desert that you can go to.
Well, and kind of crazy rain.
It feels like California has those too, but I guess Nevada just has a much broader range.
Well, and Nevada also has a lot of open road, and that's got to count for something. I mean, California is pretty congested, although you'd think you'd want to test in those situations.
They are applying to test in other states as well. So look out, Utah.
Oh, yeah. But we got some open road. Not as much as Nevada, but we do. And we got a lot of crazy weather. I think this is the coolest thing ever, although we were talking earlier about the guy going to get a taco. Is that what happens in that video? He gets a taco at Taco Bell?
He does a lot of things. He does. At one point, he does pick up a taco, yeah.
All right, well, that's the part that bothers me a little bit because I don't think blind people, if they knew what they were getting, would go to Taco Bell. That's all. Just don't go to. And I know I'm not sponsoring the show.
Are we
are not going to do this
I'm
right
with
now.
Scott. I am with Scott. They're not actually tacos. They're something.
Yeah, like McDonald's burgers. They're
marginally
not really burgers.
edible, but they're not tacos.
They're very tasty.
I don't think
they're healthier than most fast food.
I don't think that's
They
true.
are not Mexican food, though.
No.
I will.
It's like American Chinese food.
Especially if you get the beans or the chicken. Totally healthy.
Do you know how those beans are made?
I do.
You do not.
I do, actually.
Don't.
Yeah.
You just assume that they're made the way that you make beans, and they're not.
I don't make beans.
Well, then you really don't know what you're talking about.
Right, fine. Rich in lovely Cleveland will save us with an email. He says, one way they could massively increase a potential carrier Wi-Fi network is to use the home router install base for a carrier like AT&T. Imagine if you opted into a program that gives you a discount on service, and in exchange, you download an update to your router to allow it to be a Passpoint hotspot. There would have to be some limits, probably capping bandwidth for the other users and limiting the number of overall connections so your home service doesn't stink. But I think it would be a great way to rapidly deploy a very usable Wi-Fi supplementary data network.
That's definitely an approach that they could use. I mean, the thing is, if first there'll be that trust concern, but if you go, hey, my bill is less today, I think a lot of people might be swayed with that.
Yeah, I mean, trust is a huge thing here because a lot of people aren't going to trust AT&T to secure the router properly. But then a lot of people don't secure the router properly anyway. So I don't know. Maybe it's a wash. I think it's an intriguing idea. It's fraught with peril, but it is an intriguing idea. Good one, Rich.
Next email from Frank. This is in response to yesterday's discussion about toll-free data. Frank says, in my opinion, this could go one of two ways. The first is a net neutrality concern. However, what if it was like a toll-free number, where in an ideal situation, it's free to all users? Therefore, if Facebook is a free data service, then Facebook pays the appropriate fees to the appropriate carriers, just as a toll-free number owner pays the appropriate fees to the appropriate carriers. And we all win.
That would be nice. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of a situation where that's already happening. But
I can't disagree with Frank.
Yeah.
That if it worked that way, that Facebook paid for toll-free access and then all carriers had to honor it, that would work because that's what happens with toll-free numbers, right?
Sure.
If I call a toll-free number and the toll-free number was registered with Verizon's service and I'm on AT&T, it's not like AT&T will charge me. It's toll-free. But I don't think that's the way it's going to work on the internet.
No.
Too many differences.
Yeah.
Sadly. All right, that's it for our episode of Tech News Today. Thanks to those who submitted on our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. It is the place to let us know what kind of stories you would like us to cover each and every day. Get in there and submit. 6,611 readers are in there. You should be one of them if you want your voice to be heard when we put together our lineups of what to cover every day. Scott Johnson, thank you so much. It's been too long since we've had you on TNT.
It's been a while, but it's always an honor to come hang out with you guys. I really appreciate it. It's like when you're there, you're family. Don't eat there either, though.
We didn't give you breadsticks. I'm so sorry. I'll take it off your bill.
That's all right.
Let folks know about Nerdtacular coming up. Are you sold out, though?
We have a handful of tickets, very few left. If people have been on the fence and not sure what to do, the big Frog Pants community event we call Nerdtacular is happening June 23rd in Salt Lake City, Utah. Tom Merritt will be there. Veronica Belmont will be there. A whole bunch of Frog Pants friends will be there to help entertain you throughout the day. And we're watching a free screening the very next day of Pixar's Brave, which I'm really excited about. So there's a bunch of stuff going on this year. Really excited about it. They can find more at Nerdtacular.com.
What about your musical guest?
Paul and Storm will be there. Not just Paul. Yeah, those guys will be there doing a full-on concert. John Anilio's opening for him. I don't know if I've even told you that.
I knew it from John, actually. He was very happy that he was able to work that out with you.
Yeah, he'll be opening for him, and it's going to be a total blast. But the thing is, I am so busy right now with getting that ready and everything else I got on my plate. The best way to get updates on how that's going and help from like forums and other people in the community to get good hotel rates and all this stuff, just follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson, and you'll get all you need.
Thank you. Nerdtacular.com. Check it out, folks. It's going to be a fun time. It always is. And that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. You can call us. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW, or the numerical equivalents of those letters. And our mailing address, if you'd like to send us a letter, is 140 Keller Street, Petaluma, California. I don't remember the zip code.
94952.
Thank you. We'll see you next time with John Strickland, a discovery import.
What a weird.
I was going to make some revision 3 connection, and I realized I didn't have time.
Tom was crumbling before our eyes at the end there.